Hello, my name is Kelly Rogers. I'm doing this presentation for my IDS 400 diversity class at Southern New Hampshire University. My topic is socioeconomic diversity within a school system. My presentation is going to focus on the socioeconomic diversity between schools. In some states, they bus in students from lower income areas to higher income schools. I don't know if it's about the students or if it's all about the funding and the diversity statistics. When you look at somebody's school ID, you can see their name, what grade they're in, and where they go to school. You cannot see what socioeconomic class they are actually in. You cannot see if they are bused in from a lower income area to a higher income school. I feel that the words high income, lower class, high class, and funding are important when it comes to the areas that schools are located in and who attends those schools. I know these words are easy and most people would know the definitions, but I wanted to make sure that people understand the words as it relates to my research and my presentation. Social change. Having high school students getting out of their cars in designer clothes, then watching the buses pull up and dropping off students from other areas of town. Is that really fair to those students? They know they don't fit in, and they know they probably don't belong there. But it is what the school district feels is right. Is the school district doing it more for the funding and the diversity statistics, or do they really care about the students' well-being? Society judges people on their looks, and if they belong or not. Society needs to change their ways of thinking and understand that not everybody comes from money, and it is not the student's fault if they have to go to certain schools based on what some adult in a conference room feels right. Does society really think that by making kids go to school in certain areas is to their benefit? What about the money it costs for after-school programs or to go to the prom? Do you really think that their parents that live below the poverty level are going to have money for that? So what the school district is basically doing is making them outcasts before they even step onto the school grounds. More than half of public schools have low-income families. Since the percentage is so high, the schools need assistance helping these families from the community and the government. School is a major part of a child's social life, and if they don't fit in, then how is it going to affect their self-esteem and their grades? A lot of low-income students live in areas that are hard, and it is a challenge just to survive. They might be from families that do not care about their education and do not put homework or school first. Then they are attending schools with peers who live in houses that have studies filled with books, and their parents are lawyers or doctors. If they don't get into the right Ivy League college, they might disappoint their parents. Putting these two worlds together on the same campus is not fair. Studies show that kids from low-income families have lower SAT scores. There was a study done in Maryland that said, quote, on average, students who live in poverty score hundreds of points below wealthy students on the national test used in college admissions, quote unquote. Source BaltimoreSun.com. Unless they have done especially well in other areas of school, they're not going to qualify for scholarships if they even are accepted into college. After the American Revolution, Thomas Jefferson argued that the newly independent nations needed an education system. He suggested that the tax dollars of the people of the community be used to fund it. His pleas were ignored, and it took nearly a century before schools were actually introduced. That is the same problem as it is today. People in the community complain that their tax dollars are being used for schools that their kids are attending, but also kids from other communities are attending. The major issue here is diversity within the school system. Low-income students have much higher dropout rates because of not having enough social services, or it could be because their parents are never home due to working long hours, or because their parents don't put school first and don't care about their education. They endure bullying more because they don't fit in and they're an outcast. They don't have the nice clothes or fancy car or the newest technology, so they're easy targets. They do not participate in school activities because of lack of funds or transportation. If their parents are working long hours trying to make ends meet, then they're not going to be able to pick them up from school activities, and they won't have the extra funds either to pay for sports or music lessons. All teachers get an education to teach kids, but they don't all get special training on how to teach kids with different needs. If a kid has to go home and go to their dishwashing job because it helps pay the family's bills and they don't get their homework done, a teacher is still going to insist that school comes first and their homework has to be done. Teachers need to understand each child's needs, but I know they don't have the time or resources for that. Peer pressure is a big issue in school. Kids from higher income families might have an outlet if they're feeling pressured. They might have someone to go home and talk to, or they might even have enough self-esteem to stand up for themselves. But that might not be the case with kids from lower income families. They are already at a disadvantage because of not having the newest and greatest stuff. So if they feel that they might fit in by doing something that someone's pressuring them into, they might give it a try. Community involvement is huge in schools. If the community can pitch in and help all the kids, then the low income kids might feel like part of the community and it might just help them succeed. Who is impacted by this issue? Everyone. Parents, teachers, students, taxpayers, business owners, the bus driver, anyone and everyone you can think of would be impacted by this issue. It has to do with your children and their education. If your children drop out of school, who's going to pay for them in the future? We are, the taxpayers. If your children get a good education and become doctors and lawyers, then they're going to become productive members of society. But if they don't because they're bullied or they don't feel like they're adequate, it is us, the community, who's going to pay for this. And we are the ones who's impacted. I am working on getting my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I work within the court system, and I see juveniles all the time who have dropped out of school and are getting arrested for thefts and assaults. A lot of them do come from low-income families, with parents who have not graduated from high school, their grandparents have not graduated from high school, and the cycle continues. My prediction is that things are not going to get better until the community stands up and says something. Having kids bust in from other areas to fill quotas for school funding is not the answer. The kids do need to come first. So much needs to change to help the low-income students feel like they're part of the community and part of the school. The teachers need to be aware of the areas that these kids live in so that they can help meet their needs. Students do not need to be bussed into schools from around the town to fill quotas. I know that the community can change the boundaries of the school districts, so the kids go to school with their peers, not outside. They are not outsiders. The community needs to be aware of the dropout rates for the low-income students, so that way that they can help them succeed. Strategies for change. Having students go to school with their peers in their neighborhoods. It would be great if there was a school on the end of every block, but that's not a possibility. But having a school in each community that meets those kids' needs would be perfect. Make sure all schools have the same funding. If the rich schools get more money because the parents have more money, it's not fair. Making sure that all of the schools have the same funding that meets the kids' needs is what needs to happen. Hire more counselors to help prevent and lower the dropout rate. I know that the schools have budgets, but maybe they could work on adding some counselors, getting rid of some other things, but adding more counselors to help the students. Try to help them and meet the needs of the community while putting the students first. The students should always be first. These are my resources that helped me put this presentation together.